When the one with the rifle gets killed, the one who is following picks up the rifle and shoots!
Welcome to the 27th episode of the Pick Up the Rifle and Shoot series, featuring my 1962 R.F.I. No.1 Mk3 short magazine Lee-Enfield bolt-action rifle, more commonly known as the SMLE, or simply as the No.1. The No.1 Mk3 is best known for its use in World War I, serving as a standard infantry rifle for the vast British Empire at that time, stretching to the Commonwealth nations and colonies, notably Australia, Canada, and of course India, where my example is from, produced by the rifle factory Ishapore. R.F.I continues to produce the No.1s for decades after, even creating a variant for the 7.62 NATO round in the 60s, but the 303 SMLE, in my opinion, is the quintessential No.1 to own. So, here she is, my 1962 R.F.I. No.1 Mk3 short magazine Lee-Enfield bolt-action rifle. I obtained my No.1 Mk3 locally from another collector for an actually decent price, as post-war R.F.I. SMLEs are generally less expensive than their counterparts. What I received was an all-matching No.1 Mk3 manufactured in 1962 with an excellent barrel with no pitting and corrosion. She appeared not to be shot much as there was little metal wear, but she was definitely handled a lot, evident by the numerous stock repairs throughout. Which also leads me to believe she was primarily used for training, ceremonial, or even some light police duty. But who knows? I'm just very thankful to add her to my collection. Now, I'll go over in more detail, but first, let's make sure she's all clear. First up is the buttstock with its beautiful brass butt plate. Here you can see the heel was repaired, and it strangely looks like she got bumped on the head. Also, you can see the rack number 38 on the left side. Very cool. Next is the receiver socket. The socket has an engraving of FR below the safety, which indicates she's been through a factory repair at some point. There are also other proof marks on the right side, as well as the issuance and ownership mark for India's post-independence on the trigger guard. On the rear left side of the receiver has the importer stamp and caliber, TG Knox Tennessee 303 British. Next, engraved on the left front of the receiver is Ishapore's proof mark, indicating India's post-independence. Up top, you can see the beautiful SMLE's action with its cock on closed bolt, and I must say, she has the fastest and smoothest action I've ever experienced in all my bolt action milsurps. Truly a joy to operate. On the top of the receiver shows no markings, however there is a star engraved up top where the barrel meets the receiver, which I'm going to assume indicates the rifle was manufactured as a Mk3 variant, but I'm not entirely sure. Next is the rear sight, with its elevation range from 200 to 2000 meters. There is an allowance about 2 lines below the 200 meters mark, which I'm not sure what that distance would be, but at 100 meters my hits were 3 to 4 inches low. And sadly, windage is non-adjustable on the Mk3 variants. Now, I want to point out 2 important parts of the No.1 that can potentially affect accuracy, well, in my experience. First is the inner band screw that pulls the barrel down, and secondly, the fore-end spring side that pushes the barrel up. Well, silly me, I overlooked both, and I was getting 3 to 4 MOA groups on my first outing at 100 meters. As it turned out, both were seized up and dried constantly, with the inner band screw completely loose. After another field strip and cleaning, and tightening the inner band screw, accuracy significantly improved, and my No.1 surprised the heck out of me. Moving along on the business end, the stake front side is marked with a 2, and on the other side is a 0. Measuring 0.320 of an inch from the base to the top of the blade. Also, the nose cap is matching, and underneath here you can see the fore-end spring stud, as mentioned earlier, pushes up on the barrel. Something very easy to overlook. Now, let's go flip around to the other side. Here's another view of the beautiful stock. From my research, the round circle with the letters T, D, E, and circle W indicate that rifle is part of the Indian Weapons Test and Development Facility, and the other marking on the left, I couldn't make it out. Here's another view of the heel repair. It's actually well done. Next up is the right side of the rifle. Well, I have to admit, I really love the No.1's aesthetics. Beautifully done. Moving along, here's a closer view of the matching bolt with its turned down handle. On the right side of the receiver, you can see the rifle's serial and suffix, and the bolt heads marked with an M. Next up is the right side of the receiver socket that has the model designation No.1 Mk3, the manufacturer, R.F.I, and the year, 1962. Very cool. Next is the trigger and trigger guard, which have several proof marks all around. And lastly, even though you can't see it, the magazine is matching with the rifle's serial number engraved on its front. Overall, I'm very happy with my 1962 R.F.I No.1 Mk3 bolt action rifle. In fact, I much prefer her over my No.4. She shot very well and her accuracy really surprised me, especially after the inner band screw and fore-end spring stud were sorted out. What a difference they made. Now normally, I would start at the 25-yard range for rifles new to me. I only had 3 boxes of Greek HXP surplus left, and so I had to make sure every round counted to complete this episode. So with that, I went straight to the 100-meter range instead. Now, let's get on with shooting. Off to the 100-meter range. So, my first groups at 100 meters were 3 to 4 MOA, and that was before sorting out the inner band screw and fore-end spring stud. I also discovered that holding center mass worked a lot better for me than my usual 6 o'clock hold. The side picture was more consistent and easier to stay on point. Additionally, I didn't bother to move the front sight to hit center as it was stick, so I just shot her as is with the rear slider at its lowest position. So after that, I went back to the range the next day to see if there would be any difference, and shot these first 5 rounds. Let's see how it went. As you can see, 4 out of 5 rounds grouped well, measuring about a 2-inch group. I couldn't believe the difference the inner band screw and forehand spring stud made. I'm very impressed. Alright, so far so good. Now let's load up another 5 rounds. As you already know from my Pick Up the Rifle and Shoot series, that in my opinion, 10 rounds gives the shooter the best measure of what their rifle is capable of and what they're capable of, and 5 rounds just isn't enough. As you can see, the next 5 rounds group in the same area as the first, with the exception of 1, hitting near the flyer from the first group. With that data, I could conclude that my 1962 R.F.I. No.1 Mk3 star can at least do 2.23 MOA at 100 meters with the ammo that I'm using, Greek HXP 75-303 surplus. Shooting 10 rounds gives me an honest measurement of my capability with the ammo that I'm using. I'll measure 8 out of 10 rounds, 80%, allowing 2 for shooter errors and flyers. Now I know she can do a whole lot better than 2.23 MOA at 100 meters, especially looking at that 5-round group which measured 1.1 inches, which is 1 MOA. Wow, simply amazing. Now it's time for more fun at 100 meters. I set up 5 6-inch steel circle targets at 100 meters and challenged myself to knock them off in only 5 rounds, 5 for 5. I held at the top right of the steel target as my rounds were hitting low and to the left at 100 meters. Oh, and no mulligans with this challenge. This was my only attempt. Let's see how it went. Okay, so I failed to do it in 5 rounds. The fourth target turned and turned after each knockdown, becoming half its size, in which I missed completely. And the fifth, I just clipped the right edge, spinning it around. Bloody hell! Well, I just can't leave those last 2 standing. Let's load up another 5 rounds. So, it took 7 rounds to knock off all the targets. I'm so very happy I was able to clear the last 2 consecutively. They were both a lot skinnier than 6 inches, especially that 4th target. Hitting that skinny ass bastard clean off was very satisfying. And same with the 5th one. Very cool. I superimposed all the hits so you can see how the group looks like. I know I can definitely complete this challenge in 5 rounds, especially if I was able to aim center mass. I'll probably end up breaking the stake front sight and probably 0 in the future, but for now, it is what it is. Challenge failed. Now, let's see how she does at 200 yards. You know, I gotta say, it was actually kind of mind-blowing loading 10 rounds on the get-go. It was really satisfying. Alright, let's get it on. I set my rear slider at 200, I held center mass, and proceeded to shoot the first 5 rounds. Let's see how it went. The target I'm using is the NRA-C 200 yard target. I also added a shoot and see 12-inch circle target from Big Dog Targets so it's easier to see the hits. As you can see, for the first 5 rounds grouped well. Without the flyer on the top, that would be a 3-inch group. The elevation was also spot on. Alright, so far so good. And of course, as you already know, shooting 5 rounds just isn't enough. As you can see, the next 5 rounds group well into the same area, and so, with that data, I could conclude that my 1962 R.F.I. No.1 Mk3 star can at least do 3.3 MOA at 200 yards with the ammo that I'm using, Greek HXP 75-303 surplus. Now I know she could do a whole lot better than 3.3 MOA at 200 yards, especially looking at that 7-round group, which measured 3.8 inches, which is 1.9 MOA. Very cool. So there you have it, my 1962 R.F.I. No.1 Mk3 star short magazine Lee-Enfield bolt action rifle, still performing very well after all these years. A rifle that stood the test of time, serving not just in many wars and conflicts, but also civilian and law enforcement duties. Truly a brilliant do-it-all rifle, and I'm very proud to own one in my collection. Well, again, I had a blast doing another episode, and I thank you for watching. Till next time!